He kicked the stray puppy right under the wheels of a car. It had only pressed against his leg, searching for warmth. A screech of tires sliced through the cold evening air, the sound of physical blow. Arthur did not flinch. He watched as the small, dark car swerved violently, its horn blaring a furious, impotent scream before it shuddered to a stop mere inches from the whimpering ball of fur. He felt a surge of cold satisfaction. The world was messy, weak, and full of pathetic things asking for comfort. He merely put them in their place. The car door flew open and a woman emerged, her face pale with shock under the orange glow of the streetlights. "What is wrong with you?" she yelled, her voice trembling with rage. She ran to the puppy, kneeling on the damp asphalt. Arthur adjusted the collar of his expensive wool coat. "It was in my way," he said, his tone flat and dismissive. This was his antagonist, not the woman, not the dog, but the cloying, sentimental weakness they represented. The central conflict was his war against it, a war he fought every day in the boardroom and on the street. "In your way," she repeated, her voice cracking with disbelief as she gently scooped the terrified animal into her arms. "It's a baby." It was scared. He saw this as an opportunity to reinforce control, his first attempt to solve the problem of this unwanted witness. He took a deliberate step towards her, invading her space. "You should watch where you re-driving," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Things can get complicated. It would be a shame if someone misinterpreted this scene." The woman, Ilara, looked up at him. Her fear was quickly being replaced by a hard, defiant anger. She held the puppy tighter. "I have a dashcam," she said, her chin held high. "It saw everything." Arthur felt a flicker of annoyance. A complication. He had a choice: escalate the threat, or walk away and hope she did nothing. He chose a third option, a blend of both. He gave a thin, humorless smile. "Then I'm sure it also saw a stray animal running into traffic. A public nuisance. Good night." He turned and walked away, the click of his leather shoes on the pavement the only sound he left behind. He was certain he had won. He arrived at his sterile, minimalist apartment, the encounter already fading from his mind. He poured himself a glass of whiskey and opened his laptop. An email sat at the top of his inbox, flagged as urgent. The sender was Marcus Thorne, the firm's senior partner, the man who held Arthur's promotion in his hands. The subject line read, "Our firm's commitment." He opened it. It was a firm-wide announcement. Thorne was proudly trumpeting his wife's new role as the chairperson for the city's largest animal rescue gala. The email was filled with saccharine language about protecting the vulnerable and speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves. It ended with a photo. Thorne, his wife, and their smiling faces, surrounded by a dozen rescued dogs. The final sentence made the whiskey turn to acid in Arthur's stomach. "I expect to see every member of our team at the gala this Saturday to show our unwavering support." The next 48 hours were a slow-motion spiral into a quiet hell. Arthur felt the walls of his controlled world begin to sweat. A single, foolish act of impulse now threatened to demolish years of ruthless ambition. He tried to act as if nothing was wrong, but the image of the woman's face, Ilara, was seared into his mind. She was the loose thread that could unravel everything. He could not risk her showing up at that gala. He had to neutralize the threat. Using a private investigator, a tool he usually reserved for hostile takeovers, he found her. Ilara was an artist, a painter who worked out of a small studio downtown. The discovery only deepened his contempt. Of course she was. He went to her studio the next day. The place smelled of turpentine and linseed oil, a chaotic riot of color and emotion that made his skin crawl. She was there, working on a large canvas. The puppy was curled up in a dog bed in the corner, its leg bandaged. "I'm not here to fight," he said, his voice a carefully constructed instrument of reason. "I want to apologize. And to compensate you for the veterinary bills." He placed a thick envelope of cash on a nearby table. "Let us consider this matter closed." Ilara wiped her hands on a rag, her eyes never leaving his. "It's not about the money," she said calmly. "It's about the fact that you felt nothing. You would have let him die and kept walking." "I was having a bad day," he lied, the words tasting like ash. "It would not happen again." "I'm sure it would not," she said, and there was a new, unsettling confidence in her voice. "Because people like you eventually face consequences." She pushed the envelope back towards him. "Get out of my studio." He left, the failure churning in his gut. The pressure was building. At the office, he could feel Thorne's eyes on him during meetings, an unnerving, analytical gaze. Whispers seemed to follow him down the hallways. He felt a creeping paranoia, the sense that his perfect facade was cracking. He worked later, harder, trying to bury his anxiety under mountains of paperwork, but it was no use. He had lost control, and the feeling was maddening. The gala loomed, not as an obligation, but as a scaffold. On Saturday evening, dressed in a tuxedo that felt more like a shroud, he walked into the grand ballroom, his heart hammering against his ribs. It was worse than he imagined. Hundreds of the city's elite mingled, and on a giant screen behind the main stage, a slideshow of rescued animals played on a loop. Every photo of a dog felt like a personal accusation. He tried to blend in, to become invisible, but it was impossible. Then, he saw her. Ilara. She was standing near the stage, speaking with Marcus Thorne's wife. She was not just a guest, she looked like she belonged there. A cold dread washed over Arthur. This was it. She was going to tell them. He was finished. But then, an idea sparked in the darkness, a desperate, brilliant gamble. He could not let her expose him, he had to expose himself first, on his own terms. It was the only way to control the narrative. He found the event organizer and, with a few well-placed words about a spontaneous and significant donation, secured himself 2 minutes at the podium. He walked onto the stage, the spotlight blinding him. The room fell silent. "Good evening," he began, his voice thick with practiced emotion. "My name is Arthur Finch, and I am here tonight not just as a partner at my firm, but as a changed man." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. He told a carefully edited version of the story, a moment of stress, a terrible mistake, and the profound, immediate regret. He spoke of his journey in the last few days, and as the finale, he publicly pledged $50,000 to the shelter. For a moment, it worked. A wave of applause, hesitant at first, then warmer, washed over him. He had done it. He had taken her power, twisted the story, and emerged a hero. He stepped down from the stage, his heart soaring with the thrill of victory. And then Marcus Thorne walked up to the microphone, a wide, predatory smile on his face. "Arthur, thank you," Thorne began, his voice booming through the speakers. "That was truly moving. Your generosity is inspiring." He let the word hang in the air. "It's wonderful to see you have such a profound change of heart." Thorne scanned the crowd, his eyes twinkling with something cruel. "You see, we at the firm believe in second chances. And Arthur's story of his moment of stress is particularly touching to me personally. He paused, letting the tension build to an unbearable peak. Because the heroic young woman who swerved her car to save that puppy, Thorne announced, his smile widening as he gestured towards the side of the stage. The artist who has been nursing it back to health and who alerted us to this entire situation is my daughter, Ilara. The room went dead silent. The applause died in people's throats. Every eye in the ballroom turned to Arthur. The truth crashed down on him with the force of a physical blow. This was not a party, it was an execution. Thorne had not been testing him. He had been building his coffin. His apology was not a masterful save, it was the final, self-inflicted nail. He was trapped, exposed, and utterly destroyed, not by his enemy, but by his own desperate attempt to win. Humiliation was a physical sensation, a heat that crawled up his neck and set his face on fire. He fled the ballroom, the sound of polite, murderous silence chasing him out into the night. He walked for hours, the city lights blurring through a haze of shame and fury. He had built his entire life on the principle of control, of being the predator, never the prey. Now, Thorne had revealed him for what he was, a weak, pathetic animal, cornered and afraid. He found himself back on the same street, the same spot on the pavement where it had all begun. He stared at the asphalt as if he could still see the ghost of the cowering puppy. And in that moment, at the absolute bottom, something inside him finally broke. The epiphany was not a flash of light, but a quiet, crushing realization. His entire life had been a reaction. A reaction to a fear of weakness. He kicked the puppy not because he was strong, but because its vulnerability terrified him, for it mirrored a deep, hidden part of himself he could not bear to face. Thorne did not defeat him, Arthur had defeated himself the moment he lifted his foot. The next morning, he did not go to work. He did not answer the dozens of calls from the office. He went to the city animal shelter. The building was loud, filled with the chaotic symphony of barking and whining he had always despised. He walked past the front desk, past the volunteers, and went straight to the kennels. He found the puppy in one of the last cages. A small card was clipped to the wire mesh door. It read, Rory. Arthur knelt, his expensive suit wrinkling on the cold concrete floor. The puppy, Rory, watched him with cautious, intelligent eyes. It did not bark. It did not cower. He did not reach out to pet it. He did not speak. He simply knelt there, stripped of his ambition, his power, and his pride, meeting the gaze of the creature he had tried to erase. He saw not weakness, but a simple, stubborn will to live. After a long silence, the puppy took a hesitant step forward. Then another. It slowly approached the wire door of the cage, its bandaged leg held carefully off the ground. It stopped just inches from his face and watched him. Then, it pressed its small, warm body against the cage, searching for a warmth that was no longer there. And for the first time, Arthur did not kick it away.